All right, we're back with another episode of the MLB Draft Show here on Prospects Live. We are covering all things 2021 draft. Of course, I am Ralph Lifshitz, co-founder of the site, host of this show. My co-host, of course, is one of our lead prospect analysts, specifically focused on the draft more than anything else. That is Joe Doyle. Joe, what's going on, my man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I got to watch some actual baseball, some meaningful baseball today. I feel complete. I feel whole. How are you?
Same, man. I've been bouncing all around with a ton of different games, and I'm actually going to write up an article tonight. One of my old school sort of run through all the sort of the headlines, really just focused on some of the prospects, guys that are, performing or maybe not performing, that are making their debuts or somehow factoring into the 30-man rosters. So yeah, I'm kind of interested to dive into that a little bit because we have some actual competitive baseball with prospects involved. A guy like Kyle Lewis. I wanted to kick off the show.
Oh, hell yeah.
Old school. I think the first, draft that I really covered in depth, like at the time, was I think 2016 and then 2017. So I'm like Lewis is like one of my guys, one of my first players I fell in love with coming out of Mercer. Obviously he had the catastrophic knee injury very early on in his professional career, totally derailed him. And it took a while for him to build back. We saw, him sort of awaken from that, I'll say injury-induced slumber, so to speak, at the end of last season. And now this season, he's carrying the momentum through. He's got 2 dongs already in Houston, man.
Yes.
Oh, I'm loving it. So let's talk a little Mariners first, then we can get into the draft. We're going to talk PG All-American Classic today. It's going to take place in Oklahoma as opposed to traditionally San Diego this year. And it's going to be September 4th there. We'll go through the rosters, East and West rosters. We'll break it down. We'll talk about, some of the risers, some of the guys we haven't seen that we're excited to see, as well as some of the top performers over the showcase circuit recently, in particular at the Wooden Bat American or National Championships out at Lake Point in Georgia, I believe, or is it East Cobb? Whatever. But first, man, what's your take on Kyle Lewis? He's tearing it up. He's mashing right now. Hit a serious homer off of Justin Verlander yesterday.
Yeah, and then today he went oppo against Lance McCullers on a breaking ball. So yeah man, I mean the crazy thing is, like, depending on who you ask, Kyle Lewis isn't even a top 10 Mariners prospect just because of the journey that he's gone through. And it's everyone just feels so happy for the kid because he's a really, really good kid. He's the humblest of guys you'd ever meet. I think the narrative on him, like his ceiling, is just going to be dictated by how many strikeouts he has in his career, like what his K percentage is going to be. But man, oh man, he's off to like the hottest start arguably in team history. He's just mashing the ball.
Well, it's 2 games, but still, I'm excited.
Hold on. But it's 8 homers in 20 games.
Let's
true.
Not forget.
Let's not forget.
Okay, if we go back to last season, we mash them together. Okay, I got you. All right, fair enough, Joe. I apologize. But I was going to sort of rope it back here into the draft. I think it's a good lesson to sort of take away that, the development, I know it's kind of a cliche, but the development, sort of plane, it's not linear. There's going to be bumps in the road. Even top guys, a guy like Lewis, who was a Golden Spikes winner coming out of Mercer, which is unique because it's a smaller school. I think mid-major, for D1 might even be a little bit strong. We're talking about Mercer, but shouts out to Mercer, no disrespect. But I think it sort of comes back to sometimes it's going to take 4 years, 5 years for these guys to click necessarily and finally get that opportunity. Even some of the guys that we think are going to be somewhat short to the major leagues, things happen, takes a while to recover. There's positional battles, all that sort of stuff. Doesn't mean guys are failed. The draft picks don't work out. It just takes a while,
Right. And not every top 10 pick, not every top 15 pick is destined to be a star. If you get a full-time regular that can contribute valuable innings to your big league ball club out of a first-round pick, in most cases, that's a win. So, yeah, he's off to a hot start. Everyone's really excited out here. But these kids that we have coming up into the All-American game this year, they've got some of the higher ceilings that I can remember for high school talent. So let's jump right in, man.
Yeah, I was going to say that and say that, sometimes guys don't make the All-American game, and Potentially they should. We'll talk about that a little bit later and go through some of the guys that we think are the top snubs, so to speak, between the two rosters. But let's jump right in with the East roster. I'm going to kick out the names to you, and we can sort of jump back in and break it down. We'll start right out. There's really no rhyme or reason to how this is listed. Left-handed pitcher Mason Albright out of Maryland, followed by Jay Allen, outfielder out of John Carroll Catholic in Florida. Edwin Arroyo out of Puerto Rico. Joshua Baez out of Massachusetts. Michael Braswell, shortstop out of Georgia. Maddox Bruns, recent interviewee, the right word to say it? Yeah, here on Prospects Live out of UMS. I don't know why that gets me every time. UMS Wright Preparatory in Alabama. So it's UMS Wright Prep in Alabama.
Yep.
I'm going to butcher this last name. Jack Caglione.
Caglione.
Jack Caglione. That's how you say it. Jack Caglione. It's usually how I am with Italian names. Kind of mess it up at first and then rolls off the tongue. He's at a Plant historic high school in Florida. He's a two-way threat. Irving Carter out of Cavalry Christian Academy in Florida. He's a right-handed pitcher. Drew Christo out of Nebraska. Right-handed pitcher there. Pierce Coppola, left-handed pitcher out of where else? New Jersey. Thaddeus Ector, Stars Mills, Georgia outfielder. Out of North Cobb, Georgia, Harry Ford, catcher. I feel like I'm announcing this team right now. Rob Gordon, shortstop out of East Cobb, baseball home school out of Georgia. I like that. I read that. I'm like Ron Burgundy. I read like exactly off the page. Josh Hartle, Reagan, North Carolina, left-handed pitcher. Carter Holton, left-handed pitcher out of Beckton Military in Georgia. Brady House, top prep, in my opinion, in the class. Shortstop out of Winder Barrow, Georgia. Renee Lastrace, catcher out of Miami Christian. Jay Melendez, another catcher out of Westminster Christian. Our boy, Benny Montgomery, outfielder out of Redland, Pennsylvania. Braden Montgomery, outfielder, I think it's a pitcher as well, out of Madison Central in Mississippi. Andrew Painter, arguably the top prep arm in this class, right-handed pitcher, also out of Cavalry Christian Academy. And rounding out here, we got Shane Pizzini, right-handed pitcher out of Red Bank Catholic in New Jersey. Chase Petty, also out of New Jersey, but he's from Mainland Regional. And then rounding out the roster is James Wood, outfielder out of IMG, joined by his high school teammate, Tommy White, third baseman out of IMG. Last two guys here are Khalil Watson, shortstop out of Wake Forest, North Carolina. That is the town, not the college. And Casey Saki the second. It's Saki, huh? Out of Greece, Athena, New York. He's a shortstop. All right, so that's the East roster. Obviously just going, picking the low-hanging fruit. Brady House, Benny Montgomery, Andrew Painter, Hartle, another huge name on this list, in my opinion. Irving Carter, of course, Maddox Bruns. We're big fans of Josh Baez. Same goes for Jay Allen. Who amongst these guys are you most excited to finally get a look at? Or I guess get some more looks at?
So out of the guys that you listed, I mean, I always jump at the opportunity to watch a little bit more Joshua Baez. He's an interesting case because he and Benny Montgomery might be the two most tooled up players in the entire draft as far as just like raw talent goes. So any chance that I get to see either one of Benny or Joshua Baez play against the elite of the elite, I think it's a good barometer for how their summer is moving along, how they're adjusting and adapting to bigger and better arms. So those two guys really jump off the page for me. But honestly, the guy that really jumps off this roster for me that I'm looking forward to seeing is Pierce Coppola. And I know that's kind of a little bit of a hot take, but every time that I have had the opportunity to watch Pierce, I just think he's just dripping with potential. He's incredibly projectable. I love that he's just a really fun arm. He gets it up there in the low to mid 90s, and he's got a sweeping slider with a changeup in there. So yeah, I mean, he's a big arm for me in this draft. I think I have him currently as a second round grade, and but you got to start the conversation with Brady House. We haven't had the opportunity to watch Brady at these elite, PG National, at some of these other elite showcases. So watching him tee off or attempt to tee off against the West team is not only going to be a first for us in this summer circuit, but hopefully it's just an indicator of how a cut above his bat is from everyone else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm excited at the potential of what the lineup could be at particular moments. Just off the top of my head, I sort of jotted it down here while you were talking. We could see a lineup that's Jay Allen, Brady House, Tommy White, Benny Montgomery, James Wood, Josh Baez. Boom, 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 boom.
That's a lot of
those
bang.
6 in order at the same time, or at least amongst the 9 in the order. That's wild for me to think.
Yeah.
You think like a pitcher could potentially come out to pitch an inning, and those are the guys that he has to face. Like, those 6 guys is who he has to face. I mean, if he sits them all down, you kind of slayed the dragon there. But I think it's incredibly exciting to think that this lineup has that level of talent. And that's not to, throw any knocks out at some of the other guys that are there, like, Jay Melendez, who's a very good catcher, or, Brady Montgomery, who's, like I said, was a very exciting two-way player. Khalil Watson is another one that I'm excited to, finally get some looks at. Same with Rob Gordon. So there's, some really exciting hitters, amongst this lineup, Edwin Arroyo, I should mention as well. But
yeah, Caglianone might have the best, he might have the best power of the entire East roster.
Think so? I don't know.
I mean, he might. He's got a really long bat path, and he gets a lot of loft in there. So he's definitely not the quickest barrel in the draft, but
I had kind of left him aside because I wanted to actually kick it over to you and ask you what your thoughts are on him. But you sort of mentioned it. So yeah, I mean, I don't love the sort of mechanism. He has like sort of a toe tap sort of dig that he kind of like pronates his front foot. I don't know. It's a very fragmented sort of swing, if that's the right way to put it. I don't feel like it moves in a very fluid motion. Like you look at it, he's a big guy, long limbs. He's 6'5" or so. But you look at a guy like James Wood, who's equally as big, and he's so short to the ball. He's so fluid and smooth. There's bat speed there too. Wood is the guy that continued to hit down at the the Wooden Bat Championships down in Georgia over the last couple of weeks, and he continues to move up the board for me. I kind of we saw it a little bit at PG National. He was always an intriguing prospect, a guy that was certainly on our radar coming into the draft, coming into this sort of showcase circuit season. But I feel like he's really cemented himself with some in-game performances, particularly down there in Georgia recently. Some big power coming off the bat. So he's a guy that I'm really excited to see here, in this game and continue to watch throughout the process. And I thought, his performance shouldn't go unnoticed or unmentioned. I want to move on to some arms here on this team. Are you cool with that? Or do you have anything else to sort of say in the position, guys?
No, I like it. Let's jump into the arms because I think the arms are special.
The arms are special as well. We probably I could have written down another list here, just off the top of my head in terms of a rotation. Chase Petty, Andrew Painter, Josh Hartle, mixing Coppola, Irving Carter, Bruns, Mason Albright, some really talented names here. The one that sticks out for me is Chase Petty, stupid arm speed, but really it's double plus arm speed. The fastball was up to 100 miles per hour down at the Wooden Bat Championships. He looked tremendous. The slider was very sharp in comparison to what we saw at National, where he was really leading with that changeup, didn't have feel for the slider. Sort of reversed. He was leading with the slider. I think that's great to see. When the fastball gets better, it was always good. But, as he gets fresher, gets more reps, we'll say, coming off the shutdown, in-game reps, the fastball looks better, has improved. And it looks like he's got actual 2 legitimate secondaries. Now, the slider looked devastating, looked like a legitimate above average to plus pitch. And I think it's probably ahead of what I saw at National with the changeup. But I'm really interested to see.
Agree.
I'd love to see this guy go 4 innings and sort of really mix it up. Have one inning where he goes out there, he dominates the slider, comes back with that changeup. It's going to depend on honestly what the lineups are. But I feel like, this is a guy that's got the athleticism. Sure, there's some violence at the point of release and the delivery, but overall, he's got the stuff and the athleticism and the body that I think he can stick as a starter, at least here, in the short-term sort of window. We'll see what happens in 2 or 3 years. Obviously, these are pitching prospects. We never know what's going to happen. But he's one of the guys I'm most excited about. Probably the arm I'm most excited about on this list. And I actually might believe has the highest upside of any prep arm in the draft. I don't know if it's a little hot takey or not.
I mean, I don't think it's hot takey. I think his stuff right now is, I'd say him and Chase Burns have to have the best stuff in the draft, as it maybe Maddox Bruns as well. Those three have kind of set themselves apart as just having the nastiest arsenal, like, that can already complement itself. So, I mean, if you've got 95 to 98 in the tank with a changeup and a slider that have both at least flashed 55 at this point in your amateur career, yeah, I mean, that's insane. And if Chase Petty does indeed have 2 above average secondaries in the changeup and the slider, and I'm with you. I think the slider is more consistent at this point, and it does flash plus, especially when he's throwing 97. Yeah, I think he could definitely stick as starter. The nice thing about these events is, I mean, we're not going to be able to judge these pitchers for like their durability and their stamina and their endurance, their ability to work deep into games, because in most cases with these, shorter rosters, you're going to see like 2 innings from these guys. But the fun part about that is you get their best. So if you get Chase Petty, you get Chase Petty 1 or 2 innings. And maybe Andrew Painter
I actually
gets
think
3
he
or
went
4.
3 or 4, if I'm not mistaken, at the wooden bat.
No, I'm just saying in this one. I'm just saying
he's not going to do that in this. I'm just saying, I'd love to just sort of see him come out and do that. Not in this performance, but just like sometime in the near future.
Yeah, me too. That's the thing with all these guys.
We can go to games without wearing masks. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know. But that's the thing is, you really want to see how like Maddox Bruns holds up over 60 or 70 pitches, and you want to see how Chase Petty does over 60 or 70 pitches. But guys like Andrew Painter have already done that, and that's why they're higher on lists. They've already shown that they can withstand and project over a long amount of time. But the cool thing is about these events is you get Chase Petty over 30 pitches. Here's what I got. Try and hit it. You think you can hit 98? Here's what I got. Try and hit it. Big old sweeping slider. So we're going to get that with a number of these guys. Really get to see them at their peak. So, yeah, I mean, the stuff in this game should be explosive.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Painter's a guy that I think is, continuing to sort of cement himself as the number 1 prep arm, at least for me, in the draft, simply because of the pitchability. There's some characteristics that, you certainly, extension, some of those things that you'd certainly like to see him, I guess, improve upon. But I don't know, the mechanism works, right? Like, there's no reason to really mess with it right now. Maybe he doesn't have the highest upside of any of the arms, but, I don't know. I still think he's incredibly talented. He's just not necessarily the prototype of the big stuff that we're always looking for at this point. And, certain analytical characteristics that we've sort of come to accept as, universally true that, maybe it just doesn't work that way for everybody. Don't strike me dead. Sorry. But I do think that, Andrew Painter at this point, still the top guy. And it's like you said, it's a lot to do with sort of what the pitchability is here. All right. Any other names in this roster that you want to sort of dig into a little bit? I know we mentioned Josh Baez. You mentioned Pierce Coppola.
I'll point out one more guy. Yeah, there's one more guy. I think
we kind of covered that quickly. That was well done.
We did.
I'm a little shocked.
I think this is going to be a good opportunity for Casey Saki to push himself like into another tier, because the shortstops for this class are, I mean, there's 10 of them that you can name and roll off a scouting report about, just because they're all very, very talented. This is going to be a good opportunity for Saki to push himself into that conversation of maybe being a top 2 round, a top 50 or 60 pick in this draft, because we've been impressed with his hit tool. Not as much on the dirt. It's good, not great. So I'm excited to see him get a little bit of run and, see how he holds up against some of these better players too. Yeah, no.
He's a guy that I haven't dug in on a ton. Haven't seen him a lot. So yeah, I'm sort of with you there. All right, let's jump into the West roster then. Jump through some of these names. I know there's a couple guys we're going to dig in on a little bit because one of them in particular is one of our favorite players that really has been MIA thus far on the showcase circuit. But starting with the West rosters at the top, Braylon Bishop, outfielder out of Arkansas. Chase Burns, aforementioned Chase Burns out of Station Camp, Tennessee, right-handed pitcher. Max Debiak, right-handed pitcher out of O'Day, Washington, one of Joe's local boys.
Backyard.
Ryan Ginther, left-handed pitcher out of Station Camp, Tennessee as well, same as Chase Burns. Drew Gray, outfielder out of Belleville East in Illinois. Eric Hammond, right-handed pitcher out of Keller, Texas. Camden Hayslip, outfielder out of Friendship Christian in Tennessee. Love that name. Luke Hefner, shortstop, homeschool, Texas. Carter Jensen, one of the top catchers in the class out of Park Hill, Missouri. Jackson Job, right-handed pitcher out of Heritage Hall, Oklahoma. Cale Lansville, right-handed pitcher out of Thunder Ridge, Colorado. Jordan Lawler, shortstop out of Jesuit College Prep, Texas. Luke Lato, shortstop out of Porgy. I think it's Porgy Central in Michigan. Dalen Lyle, outfielder out of Trinity in Kentucky. Christian Little, right-handed pitcher out of Christian Brothers College, Missouri. Joe Mack, catcher out of Williamsville, East New York. Marcelo Mayer, shortstop out of East Lake, California. That's the guy we're most excited about.
Thank goodness.
Famous Max McGuire, first baseman out of Capistrano Valley, California. Ooh, slam that one. You know who he is. That is the son of Mark McGuire for the uninitiated. Ian Mahler. I'm going to continue to mess that up, man. Ian Mahler. My bad, Ian. Out of Wall in Iowa. He's a catcher. Alex Mooney, shortstop out of OLSM Prep. That's Orchard Lake St. Mary's Prep in Michigan. Isaac Pacheco, shortstop out of Friendswood, Texas. A lot of Friends schools here, huh?
Yeah.
Tyree Reed, outfielder, American Canyon out of California. Cody Schreier, shortstop out of J. Sarah Catholic in California. That is, of course, the alma mater of Hunter Green, amongst others. Brock Selvage, left-handed pitcher out of Hamilton in Arizona. James Peyton Smith, right-handed pitcher out of East Robertson in Tennessee. And last but not least, Gray Thomas, right-handed pitcher, Heritage Hall, Oklahoma. Actually, excuse me, I missed your boy as well, didn't I?
Malachi
Knight, outfielder out of Marysville, Getchell. Is that right? Getchell in Washington?
Yeah, Getchell.
Marysville, what's a Getchell?
I have no idea, but it's where Malachi Knight resides.
All right. That's not a school, that's a town?
No, it's a school. Marysville is the town. Marysville, Getchell Pilchuck is the high school.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah. So give me your sort of high-level thoughts here. Let's just jump right into it, man.
Sure. Well,
we both know what we want to see.
What's the top? You know what the top is.
It's Marcelo Mayer, East Lake, shortstop. Give it to me. Left-handed hitting. He's a real shortstop.
Yeah, he's 6'3".
I just can't wait to see him, finally show out in one of these showcases and sort of justify our love and what we've been, in our research had sort of, fallen in love with coming into this draft. And now it's like we haven't seen him at National, haven't seen him at, Wooden Bat, haven't seen him at some of these PBR events that have pop up here and there. Supposedly the area code games, and we're going to get him at National in September. So I'm excited to see what we got here.
I'm pumped. Having Marcelo Mayer and Jordan Lawler on the same roster. Oh, man, that's an embarrassment of riches. So, coming into this year, we'll say that again?
And Mahler and Jensen.
And Mahler and Jensen.
Your best shortstops, obviously, arguably, and the two best catchers. I think that's probably
I think that's probably true. Yeah.
Probably the two best catchers. So, yeah.
I think so. Joe Mack might be the third. But with Mayer, Mayer's been our top he's been like a top 10 player on our boards this entire year, and he's been mysteriously absent all season. And we're living in a different world, 2020, so there may be very legitimate reasons why he hasn't been at some of these events, but he's 6'3". He's 195 pounds. He has, in my opinion, the most physically projectable body of the shortstop class, although Jordan Lawler would be a close second. Really broad shoulders, a smooth, easy left-handed stroke with good present loft. Right now it's gap-to-gap power, but he does project to at least run into at least average power at the next level. It's an above-average hit tool. And for a guy that's 6'3", he moves really, really well at the position. So I think I have been holding off on moving him below Jordan Lawler in my rankings throughout the entirety of this draft cycle, just because I wanted to give the kid the benefit of the doubt, having not seen him at a live event. But this is it. I mean, this is it. This is where one guy is going to differentiate themselves from the other and pretty much put a stamp on who's going to be the top-ranked shortstop, at least after the event, in the 2021 class.
It's where the rubber meets the road, my friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
it's awesome.
I'm with you right now. Mayer, USC commit. I think it kind of tells me he's probably going to go into the draft. We haven't seen a ton of top players actually end up at USC recently. Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen it. I like the bat. I like him defensively. I think you sort of summed it up pretty well. I'm not going to piggyback on that, but I will say we said the top, two of the top shortstops. Kind of, I don't know why. I still consider Brady House to be a third baseman. I know technically he is a shortstop.
That's why I don't mention him
yet. But they might have the 3 top prep shortstops. They also have our friend Alex Mooney. So I think that is, pretty exciting when you think about it. I know Leto is another guy that had, some big buzz sort of coming into the year. At this point, our feeling, I think mutually, is that he probably ends up getting moved to the outfield. I think there's still a lot there with the bat. These are going to be 2 really strong lineups. And it's sort of unbelievable the level of talent, on both sides, just in terms of, across the board talent too. Positional talent, as well as a ton of pitching talent. I personally am starting to fall in love more and more with this prep class, especially if someone like Braylon Bishop, starts to click a little bit more. He shows out, he gets his timing back, but we saw sort of that violent swing from the left side, just the fluidity and the athleticism just oozing from his frame and those really loose hips. We could see that back again. This might be another guy that can push himself up, back into sort of that top 10, top 20 conversation, but a true first round prep talent next season. He's a guy that, I want to see big performances from in every event. But I think in particular, this is going to be a great opportunity against that East pitching staff to really show out and sort of cement who he is and why, coming into the draft, those first initial stages, he was, one of my favorite players. So I don't know if you have a guy like that here. I know you got some of your local boys with Max Debiak, certain Malachi Knight. Dig in, man. Give me some names you're excited to see.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Malachi Knight. I liked him. I'd seen him 3 times in person before this summer started, and he's gotten so much better than when I saw him. The bat is an impactor now. I don't know what its future potential is. I don't want to put any labels on that right now, but he's looking like a guy that could be like a top 50 pick, just because of how talented he is in the outfield and the fact that the bat seems to be advancing pretty quickly. So I'm really excited to see Malachi Knight. Yeah. I'm really interested to see how they're going to divvy up innings for these infielders, because you got Alex Mooney, Jordan Lawler, Brady House. Brady House is on the East roster. So you got So you got Jordan Lawler, you got Marcelo Mayer, you got Alex Mooney, you got Cody Schreier, who I think we both agree might be a third baseman now.
Yeah, or second base.
Or second base. You got Luke Leto, who we're not sure how he's going to be deployed, but you're talking about 5 or 6 guys. Isaac Pacheco also is a corner infielder. You're talking about a lot of guys on this roster that are going to need to get innings in this game, and all of them have a big resume. So, I mean, I like the position players on the West team a little bit more than the position players on the East team. But I think as far as arms go, I would certainly prefer the East.
Yeah, I don't know. Bat wise, like in the box, I'm like that top 6 I mentioned over on the East side. I may prefer that to anything you can put together on the West, but it's pretty close because I mean, like you said, you're talking Leto, who I think is still obviously extremely strong.
Good bat.
Lawler, another guy that I think arguably at this point probably the top prep shortstop, like true shortstop guy that can sit there in the draft. He's had some big performances. He really showed out at Wooden Bat.
Yeah, he did.
And he's a guy that he's strong in the field. He's a fringe to plus runner. I don't think you want to slap like a true hard 60 on him, but he floats in that 55 to 60 range, like those 4.2s. In terms of home to first, and then the 60s are sometimes somewhere around that plus grade. But he's got a ton of pop in the bat. I love the swing. It's just a powerful, clean right-handed swing. There's not a ton of work in the load. It's just sort of, hands, hips, shoulder, boom. He's got a slight leg lift, leg kick, but he gets right into the ball. He engages his lower half. He never sort of opens his hips too early and exposes himself. And the bat really drags to the zone. I love Lawler's hits. So, if we're talking about just like one single guy, absolutely. I think there's something there. But I could probably go through it here. Pacheco, another obviously very strong hitter, and a guy that you'd be excited to see. Of course, we got Mayer, as we mentioned before. I don't know. Maybe you're convincing me. Now I'm kind of talking myself out of it. Schreier, Mooney.
You got some outfielders too, man. I mean,
yeah.
I know how much you like Dalen Lyle. I really like Dalen Lyle as well. I think the hit tool is one of the more underrated. Honestly, I think Dalen Lyle is one of the more underrated players in this draft. But a guy that I think is really underrated is Camden. I think Camden Hayslip. I think Camden Hayslip is super underrated.
Yeah, me too.
Personally.
Well, he was a guy
I love his swing.
Off the list and then really showed out at National and burst himself onto the scene. I think he earned himself, a spot here at the All-American Classic. So totally agree there. Yeah, I'm going through here, man. Jensen, we got our boy Mahler on here, Mooney. Yeah, I don't know. You're right, man. They got the better lineup.
It's tough. It's a toss-up.
You're right. I like that little cluster that I had before. I think much of it is being strengthened by that, sort of house and wood being together. Just the brute strength and force and sheer bat speed and violence that I'm going to get to see with those guys combined. So yeah, man, I don't know. I think you're right. You convinced me, Joe. All right. Any other names you want to talk here? I don't want to go too long. I think we're bouncing along here. Do you want to jump into sort of the biggest guys that are missing, biggest snubs, names that we sort of really wish made the game? Or do you have anybody else you want to mention in the West roster?
No, I mean, let's jump into the snubs. It's going to be a great game, man. It's a pretty balanced lineup for both.
Yeah, and I don't think we have to jump into Burns and Debiak specifically and some of the arms that are on the other side. The arms are definitely stronger, in my opinion, even with Job and Lansville. In my opinion, the arms the arms are much stronger on the East roster. I think that's something that nobody's really going to argue with very much there. All right,
there's a couple, but it's not as deep.
Yeah, so who are your biggest snubs? I have one in particular, an arm that is arguably one of my favorite. A few of my favorite bats as well, but one arm in particular that I'm pretty upset about. But I'll kick it over to you. I'll even let you say the guy if you want. But who's your biggest snub?
That you can take that. I have a personal snub. Christian Moore would be my snub for the event. Yeah, Christian Moore was a guy that really, really impressed me at PG National. He's a shortstop out of Suffield Academy. He's 6'1", 200. He's a Tennessee commit, but he had one of the more impressive batting practice displays in the event a few weeks back, and he's only performed since. For a guy his size, he moves really, really well for the position, and he might just be a victim of a numbers game. Really, there's so many shortstops and solid players in this class that there just might not have been room for him. And I think that applies to like 4, 5, 6 other shortstops in this class. I'll hit on them briefly before you jump into a few guys. Like Christian Campbell, I think is a really good prospect that isn't going to be in this event. Christian Moore. Then you got guys like Ryan Spikes, Max Muncy, Alex Ulloa, Drake Varnado, and Colson Montgomery, who are all impressive, accomplished shortstops that aren't going to be in this event. But hey, the shortstops that are in the event are special.
It's true. There's just so many shortstops in this class. That was going to be a position where some guys were going to get snubbed. And the rosters are incredibly shortstop heavy to begin with. So it'll be interesting, as you said earlier, as we were talking through the rosters, how those guys are going to end up sort of being deployed. But my biggest snub is Gage Jump. 100% spin efficiency on that fastball. Sure, it's only maybe 92 to 93. He's smaller. He's sub 6 feet, but he's got that really, really low release point. It's a flat approach angle in terms of where the fastball comes on you. Really hard to pick up, really hard to hit. And he works top of the zone with that backspin fastball, and it's incredibly efficient. It's a beautiful pitch. Developing his secondaries, none of them are bad, obviously, but he's a guy that I wanted to see. I think there are 5 to 6 arms that I would take, Gage Jump over in a second that are on these rosters. So, it wasn't much of a question to me. I don't know why, but I thought Jump showed out in National. I wanted to see him again.
And he's performed at every level. Bat, PG National. I mean, he's dominated everyone that he's come across. So I don't know if it's, I don't know why Gage Jump didn't make it in, but it is what it is. There's another arm that I thought should have been in the event that isn't, and that's Philip Abner. He was really good at PG National as well. For me, he's one of the most polished arms in the entire class as far as the ability to hit every quadrant and throw strikes and not walk batters. The body, I understand that the body isn't the most projectable in the world. What are you going to do? But he's a University of Florida commit. That's an arm that should say a lot about his talent. And like you said, there's 4 or 5 arms that I would move Abner ahead of. So not sure why he's not in it. He's performed at every level, but again, the rosters are stacked. So what can you say?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that we didn't see him. And one more name that I don't think we saw. Thomas Delandry didn't make the game either, did
he? He didn't. No, Delandry didn't make it in.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I was pretty excited to sort of get another look at. I thought he was good at National. Just sort of going through my quick list here. I was trying to pull up my numbers on Abner because I knew that I had written him up a little bit, but now I'm not getting to it nearly quick enough. Also my boy Travis Garnett. Hell, why can't I get more Travis Garnett love, PG? What's going on, guys? I think I'm like the lone guy stumping the table besides like his dad. It's like me and his dad, 2 people that love Travis Garnett. But anyway, all right. So we've kind of gone through the snubs a little bit there. Anybody else that you want to sort of mention, go through any big news in the draft, anything that's bothering you?
I mean,
upsetting you?
No. Not really. There's a few other guys that I'll just mention as honorable mentions, just so they know that, we're thinking about them. Jonathan Santucci, I thought was a guy that should have been able to make it in. A couple other outfielders, Rock Reggio and Josh Pearson, they've impressed me. Rock Reggio is a talented kid. He just hasn't performed yet. So it's unfortunate that he's going to miss this opportunity. And then 2 more arms. Brady Tigert, I thought, has been really good. Ever since this entire circuit has started. And then Anthony Susak, who I understand isn't the most polished arm, has struggles throwing strikes right now. But I mean, that's one of the better sliders that we've seen.
Agree. Yeah, I like Susak's slider a ton. So he was another name that jumped out to me. Santucci's a local guy who really performed. He had a huge hit late in one of those wooden bat championship games. I think I retweeted it actually today. Go over to my Twitter account, check that out. Max Muncy, not just for the name. I call him Maxwell Muncy.
Maxwell.
Separate, you're not Max Muncy. You're Maxwell Muncy. Okay. You got to earn that. But I'm a little surprised he didn't make it. Spikes, wouldn't have been an exciting, bat to see. You sort of mentioned these guys already. And then, of course, Rock Reggio. But Rock didn't start hitting until a couple weeks ago. I think he had a huge homer and wooden bat, if I'm not mistaken. But he had some big hits in a recent showcase. But he looks so bad at National that I'm kind of not surprised he didn't make it. There's a lot of guys trying to sort of sneak into this roster. All right. Anything else you wanted to mention before we wrap this sucker up for another week?
Not really, man. I'm just ready to see Brady House.
Same here, brother. Same here. I'm ready to see Marcelo Mayer, number 1. But PG, thanks for putting this on. Thanks for putting the rosters out, giving us something to talk about, something to look forward to. Certainly hit us up with any of your draft questions in the comments here on YouTube, on Twitter. You know where to find us because the Twitter handles are right here on the screen. It's at Prosper Jesus for myself and at Joe Doyle, MILB. If you want to check them out. Ask us questions, anything about the draft. We're willing to jump into, explain our thought process, etc. Joe, excellent show. Thanks for joining us for another week.
All right, man. Until next time.